we're back with our guest. He finally came. Well, it's not really finally because we started a little early. Thank you so much for being here, MadMan Plants. It's been like 2 years since we saw you.
Probably, yeah. I've been on twice now, so this is my third time.
Damn it. Ashley was right. We
I told you.
You were right?
Yeah, I was like, he's been here a couple of times.
My first time I was with MadMan and Lacey.
Yep.
And then I was by myself. And then
So, okay, the other question is, was there a green
Did you have a
outfit,
green?
or was it always black and white?
Was it like a lime green?
Your hood, your face cover.
It was black and white.
But did you have like a jumpsuit thing with it? Like a...
Yeah, so when we first met, I had the full checkered bodysuit. Because it was a full bodysuit.
But it wasn't green. Why was I thinking it was green?
I'm not sure. Maybe because higher education's green.
Maybe.
That's the main color.
No, but it was like a lime. But you did cover your whole body. I was remembering and fully like your whole body was like... But for some reason, I thought it was green.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncomfortability. When I first started doing, the mask didn't have holes, so every time I was shooting content, I was actually blind, and I would have to shoot my other stuff later because I really couldn't see what was going on. So half the time when you see my hands, that's a later shot, and then I'm talking it over in the beginning. So,
all right. I can see that would have been painful.
Yeah, I think Ashley is just sort of like thinking of the stereotypical like bodysuit like that, like the green one, like you see.
But I knew it was, I knew it was a bodysuit.
Somebody in the crowd at a sports game or concert or something like that.
We were trying to figure out how many times she'd been here, and we were like, okay, 2, 1, and we knew it had been a while, and we were like, why did it take so long to get you back? And then I knew the answer to that one I got right, because it was because you've been on tour all year.
I have been on tour all year. We hit 15 states in 12 months, so did Honey. Honey actually got her wings from American Airlines. We've been on just shy of 30 airplanes this year.
Oh, wow.
We have another tour coming up again. We brought companies on the road like AC Infinity, Hygrozyme, Simple Supplements. They were our paid sponsors this year that helped fund the trip. And it was really cool. We had a 10 by 20 foot booth. We set up mostly at trade shows. Yeah. So we had people coming on the show talking to us through our podcast. We did about 500 podcasts this year.
Wow.
So
that is a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. So
we do 52 and think we do a lot.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Well, I do the live. I do 16 hours a month live. So I do 2 hours each Wednesday and Sunday of each week.
Okay.
So I guess 20 hours. And then that's my 2 hour or 3 hour format. Like last night we had Chad Westport on and we talked for 3 hours. So that's my normal interview. On Wednesday is who I talk to. Mm-hmm. On Sunday is Mad Sundays, and this is where I kind of just smoke and joke. I find people local in the community. I bring them over to the studio. We do the podcast. We have some fun. It's less serious. And then when I'm on tour, I don't have the ability to do long segments, so all my segments are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So this way I can talk to a lot of people. Like when I was just in Vegas a week ago, we did 25 interviews in 3 days, and they're all over 10 minutes each. And I had a whole list when I went to MJ BizCon of every person, because I mostly talked to the industry. Mm-hmm. I talked to a lot of the manufacturers, distributors, and then I talked to some of the celebrities. Like I interviewed Josh Kesselman each year from Raw on my podcast, and I'm about to actually have him on my 2 hour format. So we're about to sit down. But it's just the ability to just connect with people. And since I target home growers, and with our new curriculum that's coming out for the website, it's all about getting connected. And the biggest thing I advocate for is people to do something real in the community. And whether it's, just attending events, whether it's hosting events, whether it's owning a grow shop, whether it's owning a smoke shop, whether it's just liking cannabis. I encourage people to get more inside the culture of cannabis, because there you truly understand the business and the life form outside of the stigma of just getting high. Right. And when you're at these events, you only see professionals, and this is tied to mental health and a lot of other things. So it's cool to be able to see the adult side of cannabis, mm-hmm. where a lot of people don't even think that exists. Like when I first told my dad about MJ BizCon, he's like, so it's a giant convention full of people smoking. I was like, absolutely not. I was like, it's literally the who's who of business in the cannabis industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting that how many people think that we just have fun all the time. And I mean, don't get me
We
wrong,
do,
if you
but-
right, if you love your job, then you never work a day in your life. You know, which is part of the reason I've been a head shop owner for forever and ever, is because I don't want to have a traditional job, and I don't work 9 to 5. I don't work 5 days a week. I work 7 days a week. I work morning to, you know, from the minute we wake up to the minute you go to bed. But on the other hand, I also never work because, you know, yesterday I was in my store just for a minute. It was my technical day off, we'll say. And, you know, customer walks in and they're like, hey, Dawn's here. And the next thing you know, I'm engaged in a half an hour conversation with someone, just having a good time, you know, and you talk about everything under the sun. It's not like you just talk about, you know, cannabis or you just talk about pipes. You talk about everything under the sun, you know. It's amazing, you know. We were talking about actually CBD infused dog treats and the fact that, you know, there's a reason that there used to be like 50,000 brands on the market a few years ago, and now there's very few because most of them were not high quality and they were actually making dogs sick. So you had to be careful what CBD dog treats you gave your dog because people were like, it's just for a dog. And they don't realize that there's no such thing as just a dog. That's you know, that's your pet. I mean, that's your family member. I mean, you know, I'd rather give CBD for humans to my dog than CBD for dogs to my dogs. Right? I mean, because at least then you know it's tested in quality. But it's amazing. And I got a question for you as somebody who's a fellow podcaster. 2 hours, I appreciate that you can do that. How many times have you done an interview with someone where you were like, I don't know how am I getting 2 hours out of this?
Well, a lot of it for me, even like with Chad Westport, last night we did 3 hours, and he said it's amazing we've been on here for 3 hours because it doesn't feel like it. Most times when I talk to people, I have a really good ability to make people comfortable on camera, and since I do a lot of like testimonials, like I did Canatrol's website video last year. We were in Vermont 3 times working with distributors, manufacturers, home growers, dispensaries. We were in 3 different states doing testimonials for them. And Jane commented about my unique ability to make people at ease when it comes to the cameras. So one thing I do is sometimes I'll do my research about somebody, but like last night I knew nothing about Chad Westport. I didn't even get him to fill out the form correctly because it just, you know, everything just happens at once, and I had to freestyle it. And the thing I think you have to realize is most times as a podcaster, you need to be the instructor in the conversation. So you need to be able to carry it. And I also, when I don't have a guest, I talk for 2 hours by myself. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? And you have to, I think, be able to make something comfortable, but turn it into a conversation. So don't do, and like, I think it's 1987, I think it is their group. He said the one thing he loved about interviewing with me in Vegas was it wasn't just a Q&A. It was an actual conversation. So I think the biggest thing when you want to have long conversations with people is think about what are you interested in and then use that. So if your guest comes on and that is something just like pulling teeth and you are like, I don't know how this is going to go, or you deal with a couple of people that are very brash and very like opinionated during for the pre-conversation. You're like, oh man, I don't know how this interview is going to go at all, you know, like, you know, it could all blow up in my face. But you have to have the attitude that you're here to collect the story, so you need to do your best job to work with whoever they are and to make them feel like they want to talk. And it's amazing whether we have 10-minute conversations. Like in 10 minutes, we were talking about one lady at National Cannabis Festival about her worst day as a meth addict, where she would shut all the blinds, she would get on her hands and knees, she would get out on a magnifying glass, and she would literally be combing through the carpet for hours at a time. And the reason that she now uses cannabis is because she wanted to get off hard drugs, but she still wanted something to feel. She wanted to have something like everybody else has something, but she didn't want to be an addict anymore. So she turned to cannabis. Cannabis has turned her life around. But to be able to have that conversation in a short amount of time or a long period of time, I think really solely relies on the interviewer. So if you like to have conversations, you're going to be a good podcaster and you should be able to carry the conversation. Right. You know what I mean? So I think it's more about us as the presenter, because we're the showman. You know, we're the one that came up with the idea or exploiting the idea or narrating it. It's our job to lead them, because a lot of times I speak to people who've never been on a podcast before, or maybe they only have 100 followers and I'm their very first podcast. I'm usually like the cherry popper of podcast. But when I do it, nobody knows. Like you can't look at one of my interviews and say, I didn't know that it was that person's first time for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Absolutely. I feel like, you know, I appreciate what you're saying. I definitely feel like it's my job most of the time to try to carry the conversation. But there are occasionally, you know, I guess we've been doing this for 4 years now. And there has been a few where I feel like no matter how many questions I ask, I got yes, no, I don't know. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't, you know? And you know, you give yourself, you know, then you're like, oh, you're right, that would be a hard question for me to answer. And you talk a little bit and you try a little bit and then you're like, so you got any more ideas? And they're like, no. You know
Some
what
people are like that, and that's also, I think, dealing with people that are the right side and left side of the brain. You have really like intelligent people, like, you know, the science and like all that, who they're very intelligent. But like my dad, it's very hard for him to carry a conversation. Half the things I talk about are too deep for him, and he tells me all the time. He says, I don't understand it. Like, I think it's great, but to me, this doesn't make any sense. You know, and I think that's true. But one thing that you can focus on, and a little tip that I can give you about people like that, is if you get people that are just answering yes and no, start to ask them why, and then refer to yourself. One thing, like when I get dry in an interview, because there's points where we'll be flowing and the conversation will be going, and then even in a really good conversation, there are parts where you'll end like a part, and your whole dynamic, your energy will change, and you'll hit like a roadblock, and you're like, oh shit. Well, now I got to continue the conversation, and we still have another hour to go. And now I'm scrambling my brain trying to come up with what I'm going to say. So the best thing to do is to start asking them more questions. Oh, yeah, so you agree with that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Right.
Or explain that a little bit better. You know, I think the audience would, you know, yes is a great answer, but explain that real quick for me.
Right,
and then
right.
you give them the directive of, you need to do this for me. So I need more, you know, and let them go, you know. So that's one thing you can do in combat, instead of just saying, yeah, okay, that's great. Because I do that too, but that limits our viewers' experience, right? And it's not really interviewing anymore. It's now searching for answers. So the best thing we can do is, okay, well, what's something I know that they'd like about, and I've heard them talk about? Okay, let's go to this. You know, and I even happened with Chad at Westport last night. We were doing really good, and then I got to the second where it was like, oh fuck, we got another couple hours to go. Okay, let me dive into this. Now I refer to something that relates to me. Now I'm back on track, and now I'm talking about something I understand, and now I'm going to put it back on them.
Right. Right, good point. Because you know, there's just been, I mean, and we've done pretty well for the most part. I feel like in the last 4 years we have had some amazing interviews, but every now and then you just get one that you're like,
It's like,
yeah. I'm like, man, I put out all my dental tools and nothing is working. And then, you know, Seth here, he never shuts up. So trying to get him to be like, stop talking. We're trying to have an interview here. Right? That happens.
Yes.
that's funny.
So tell me, I'd love to know, you no longer have the MadMan persona as far as the costume. You're no longer covered.
Yeah.
What changed that? What made you decide to come out of the...
The real reason, I just got tired of wearing the mask. The methodical and mature and great answer everybody wants to hear is mainly I just... So, last year we did a lot of great things. We had our first tour. We had our very first event, MadMan Plants Barbecue Smoke and Smoke Out. Had almost 400 people, raised $2,600 for breast cancer, which is why my hair is pink. And then I liked the colors so much, I was like, well, I'm going to keep it because it looks good. And then we also raised $4,000 to throw the event. So we had sponsors pay for the entire event. So, you know, it was all covered by everybody, the community. It was a great event, and you know, through that, you know, I presented a check with the mask on. I've done all this touring with the mask on, and you know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, I've really built my brand. I've really built kind of a reputation in the community. You know, people really, you know, like what I'm doing. So now I think, you know, part of it's the transparency of having more people accept and understand it. But more what we were talking about on the phone the other night was, I'm really trying to get into, and I was talking about with Chad Westport last night, is the thought that I'm really trying to get into like the more the lobbying, public speaking, forward facing side of cannabis. I think it's great that we all grow cannabis, but I think it's even greater that if you have the desire or the need to go out there and really set out to find a way to be a part of the industry, you know, and whether that's being more informed, whether that's actually attending like, you know, hearings and, you know, speaking to people. I really want to be on the front line, and I feel like I have a voice, and there's going to be certain arenas in the future when I'm doing all this stuff, because I haven't started yet. I'm you know, I'm just getting interested. I'm just, you know, putting that out there, you know. So, is that there's not always going to be a place for the mask, you know, and I understand that. And you know, and the beginning it was illegal to grow in Virginia, so I wore the mask because I wanted to make you know, YouTube content. I used to have a voice changer, which was really weird. Now that I look back at it, and now that Virginia is legal, and you know, I'm doing all this great work, I think it's time for people to know who they're really talking to. And when I talk about like rape or incest or people that have been shot in the back of the head, or you know, addiction, or all these crazy things that have been on my podcast, you know, to build that connection and to make it more personal, I think that they deserve to see who they're talking to. And it also gives me an ability to not have to keep rolling it up, trying to smoke a joint while I'm wearing it, and then it dries out my face, and I'm sitting here 3 hours in a mask, and I feel like I got a sunburn after I take it off. So, I mean, the full bodysuit was a lot, but, you know, it's as brands and as companies evolve, so do their marketing tactics, so do their logos, so do themselves. And it's just a way to professionalize myself and be taken a little bit more serious in the community by having a face and being the face, I guess.
I feel like in my memory, one of the things that you had said to us is that you wore the mask because of other business that you did. And I guess you were concerned that there would be judgment based on, you know, the cannabis side of what you do.
Yeah.
You know, based on the other business that you did. So do you still do other business, or is that something that's just not a concern anymore?
It's one of the things where I've come to the point where I made a decision. If you don't like me because I smoke weed or I'm a part of cannabis, then I'm in a position in my life where I have the ability to fire my clients as well. You know, and it's one of those things where if you don't let me be me, how can I be 100% for you? And, you know, I get it that not everybody appreciates cannabis. And I'm not asking everybody to understand cannabis or to accept cannabis as their Lord and Savior or whatever, you know. But my goal and what I've figured out is it's not about them. It's about me. And if I'm really a part of this community and if I'm really an advocate, then I need to be exactly who I'm going to be. And I think authenticity is real. And the whole point of getting into MadMan Plant was to work with cannabis companies as a production company, which was what I do for a living. So with that being said, I no longer care. You know what I mean? I'm just going to be me. I posted all my good luck stuff. I talk about good luck stuff. You know, a lot of my clients know that I do MadMan Plant. A lot of my clients look at my plant photos. So in a way, my fears were more in my head than in reality, because I met a lot of people who are my customers that actually smoked and are cool. I mean, I've been on shoots where I'm talking to the customer about weed, and I don't bring it up. Like if I'm in a setting and I don't know that you smoke, I won't talk about it if you don't already know that I smoke. Just out of professionalism, and you know, it's kind of like being a drunk. You know, it's okay to drink, but don't be going slobbering all over people, hugging people, because people don't like a drunk. They like drinking. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those attitudes. But yeah, it was a real concern in the beginning, but I had to make a choice. Do I live and be me, or do I live in a world because I'm scared of what everybody thinks about me? And nothing bad happened because of that. You know, so it was a win-win.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was, you know, I guess you answered the question. It's really your perception and how you decided to choose things. I was really also wondering if maybe it's just because overall people's ideas of cannabis have changed. You know, there's so many, it's so much more accepted. You know?
Some places, there are places. I got kicked out of the Boy Scouts as a den leader because the person that runs the Scout group this year, or last year, 2 years ago, was a DEA agent, and I, quote unquote, allegedly smell like weed. But when you go to the bylaws of it, next to alcohol, as long as I don't promote it, advertise it, solicit it, use it, or encourage other kids to take it, it does not matter what I do before or after Boy Scouts. Clearly states there, but I was wrongfully removed. I was also almost kicked out of the Freemasons for smoking a joint, and I have a huge podcast where I talk about that. And I'm actually about to be back in my lodge in January, so I'm going to be doing a huge thing teaching about Masonry and what that's like. 'Cause for those who don't know, it's the moral application of life. It's not a religion. It's about using the working tools to mold and skill yourself better, is what we call living stones. So if you've ever been to a lodge, on two sides of the lodge you have a jagged rock, and then you have a perfectly squared and true stone. In life, we come in as that jagged rock, and through the working tools of a master mason, like the plumb, the trowel, the 24-inch gauge, the square, the compass, we are molding and conforming our lives to that perfect square or living stone. And that's what the MadMan Planet program is about education, motivation, and inspiration. There's so much hate, there's so much stigma, there's a lot of things going on. Why add to that? It's okay that people don't like cannabis. There's a lot of people that don't like a lot of things. I just don't care anymore, and if you're going to judge me, what I've learned through being attacked in my own community, seeing other people attacked in my own community, people that have done wrong, that have been, unfairly judged. Think about this. When we're on the road, each day we break the law. Every day we're on the road without using our turn signal, with speeding too fast, with the way we drive. There are so many infractions, but most times nobody's there to enforce it. So I think it's really you learn a lot about the community that you work in and play in when things go wrong. And I just think that is a plant that's designed to be free-spirited and free-minded. We cast a lot of judgment in this arena, and it's very frustrating, because how does that help the future of cannabis if it's just dramified, And we should change that. We're better than that, you know what I mean? And I just I don't even know what the question was again. I'm going on a tangent. Sometimes that's why I smoked before I came in, so I talk a lot. See, that's how you carry the conversation. You just talk. Don't let them talk. You just talk.
I totally agree with what you're saying, though. I've been in the head shop industry for over 20 years, and one of the things I've said for years is that it's a karma shop. It's a karma industry. And I truly believe that. My store, Higher Education, is all about karma. That's why when we have a handful of our regulars who come in and they're a couple dollars short, I'm like, I'm sure you'll be back and you'll take care of me. And I don't write it down. And people seem shocked, like, wait, that guy left here owing you $5 and some odd cents and you didn't write it down. And I'm like, they'll remember. It's a karma shop. It's a karma shop. And it's something that I've loved about being a head shop person for years. This is part of the reason I wanted to do this way back when in the 90s when I started it. And like you said, this industry is so full of hate, unfortunately. I call them canna capitalists. There's so many people who've gotten into, whether it's smoke shop or, and I think you can also tell by the term they use for their own shop. We call ourselves a head shop. Head shop is definitely a karma shop. Whereas, smoke shops might be about tobacco and
that's
and
true.
poisons
And cigars and other products.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's interesting. And even the grow shops, when it was illegal or teetering on illegal, a lot of these people weren't interested in opening a plant store. They had no interest. But suddenly now it's legal, and everybody ran out there to buy a grow shop. And that's interesting. That's interesting to me, because they don't really just love plants. They love one specific plant. And honestly, you gotta have to love them all. There's, the best way to grow cannabis is to have, just like anything else, when you're growing a plant, having companion plants helps a whole lot, because then you can prevent bugs by having companion plants.
Yeah, we have carnivorous plants, we have house plants, we have everything. And we were actually, it's so funny, because this is almost like the same conversation I was having last night on the podcast, was, it's a gateway to loving other plants, and it's a huge gateway in a way you don't think it is. What I mean?
It's also plant medicine, and we talk about cannabis as plant medicine all the time, but there are so many other plants that are also medicine. cannabis is just a fraction of the potential out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Seth likes to refer to me as a hippie, but like every time someone gets sick or whatever, I'm like, oh wait, I have some, and I'm pulling out some rosemary or some plant that I grew in my front yard. Used to be a flower garden, and it's not so much anymore. Now there's a bunch of herbs in there, and I have things like mint growing and rosemary and different plants that are growing so that I can help us stay healthy and stay healed. And it's amazing because you start with one and then you suddenly realize there's hundreds of plants we should be growing.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
hundreds of plants we should be growing in our yard, and it would help us stay safe from this overpolluted world that we live in, because it's a funky place.
No, so I've learned that rosemary is like a really good thing for me to use for my body instead of like the steroids and stuff that I've been told to use by doctors.
Yeah.
And so the rosemary has helped my skin significantly. I got like the oils. I didn't grow it myself, which maybe I'll get some from you. But I got some of the essential oil stuff, and instead of using steroids every day, I've been using that, and it's been helpful.
It's amazing. And mix it with some castor oil. It'll be it'll penetrate deeper than anything else, because castor oil, which that's something used to be, you could find castor beans everywhere. Everybody could grow. There was these little bushes of them, and now they're like hard to find, and I actually believe in some states they're illegal to grow because they claim that they're poisonous. But and that's crazy, because if you look back and talk to your grandmother, your great grandmother, before I guess we took over birthing babies only in hospitals, and you ask them, how did you get through labor? And they were like, oh, castor oil. How did I get through being sick? Castor oil. It's amazing. But now suddenly it's poisonous, and God forbid you give it to somebody, and thank God my midwife gave it to me.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. There's so many wonderful plants, and you find out that it's not just cannabis that has been, demonized. There's so many other plants, like valerian root. Valerian root is the basis of Valium. Right, you can grow valerian root yourself. You dig up a little root, you chew on it, it will actually bring you a euphoric feeling, much like Valium does, only it's much less likely to be addictive because it's not such a concentrated form. Years ago I had panic attacks. Valerian root saved my ass. Otherwise I would have been, hopped off on goofballs that the pharmaceutical company gave me, and who knows where my liver would be at now. But instead I was able to have just little bits of this the root of the valerian plant, and I would put it between my back molars and bite down on it. It had this weird licorice-like flavor, and the next thing you know, you would just find yourself being calm and chill. Just fantastic. Seth would use more of these things, but he doesn't listen to me.
Hard-headed.
Valerian root is not what I need. I am chill.
Yeah, yes, he is. He's already eaten too much of it. We got to get you something hyper. We're gonna give him energizing drugs or energizing plants.
Like what?
Give me a minute to think. I don't remember them all anymore. I'm getting older, and I used to be able to just memorize and push out all these plants, and then, and I have a whole library full of plant medicine books.
You have a whole what's your witchy woman book that we need to revisit. That was interesting.
Yes.
Dawn has this notebook that she brought in, and we went in and talked about different things that could buy. What was it last winter? Maybe some things
yeah.
And so it was really neat because she's got it all organized and everything, kind of like a prescription for whatever is happening. So yeah, we need to revisit that.
Yeah, there's so many of them. I took a class years ago now about healing herbs, and then you read these books, and some of them are just so basic, you're like, this one's not really going to do it for me. And there's some that just really fit you, because you still got to learn your body. And I ended up making, what she's talking about is a notebook full of ones that were absolutely perfect for me, or what I thought were really good ones. And some of them, they're made up. I didn't find them anybody else's recipe. You just, you tinker until you find that perfect recipe for instance, a good shampoo, or, a a really good hair conditioner, or some of them are just for skin. Like, I mean, I have my own sunscreen. You know, I decided to make my own sunscreen. I'm extremely fair. I burn at the drop of a hat. But sunscreen is poison that you're putting on your, you know, your skin, and your skin is the largest organ of your body. This is not how you want to poison yourself. So I make my own sunscreen, and I had gone through a couple different sunscreens, but they were all kind of like weak, you know, like 20%, you know, SPF or 20 SPF. And I was like, no, that's not going to work for some, you know, Shea Whitey over here. So mine is like 55%.
What's like your main ingredient for the sunscreen?
Carrot extract.
Oh.
Isn't it cocoa butter?
Well, the carrot extract has higher SPF in it.
Yeah, but the main ingredient, the base of it.
I guess.
Oh, you mean the base of it?
Yeah, just like what?
Yeah, the base of it would be
lathering stuff on your body.
So yeah, that would. But yes, yeah, cocoa butter is like the main. There's the majority of that, so it'll spread really well. But it's carrot essential oil that is actually really high in SPF.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, that's the secret ingredient to making it like actually work.
The secret is out now.
Yes, thanks a lot, Seth.
I didn't ask the question. I actually did.
I wanted to know. It's because you hear that's the thing too, is there's always these problems in the world, and everybody's like, oh, the sunscreen is so bad for you, so bad for you, so don't ever use sunscreen. None of the sunscreens you buy in the store are good for you, but then there's no solution. It's just that.
They're not just bad for you, they're bad for the planet.
Yeah, they're destroying the planet. I mean, they killed coral reefs, they're bleaching the coral reefs.
Because I've heard
I've
this,
seen that.
every time I buy sunscreen, because it's like, well, what am I going to, because I can't have my kids get burned, because I have had that happen, and it makes you seem like the worst mom ever, especially when they're babies and get like bright red burn. It's like, are you watching your child?
Right.
So then you break down and you've got to buy it, and every time I'm like, all of these are bad. Like, I don't see the difference, and it just let me just get the fucking one that I'm used to getting.
So cocoa butter is about 4 SPF naturally. Okay. So it's not going to be enough to actually do anything for you on its own. But if you take the 4 SPF of the cocoa butter and add some carrot essential oil, the extract, that's like depending on the quality of it, you're looking at somewhere between 30 and 40.
Oh, wow.
SPF, and then some beeswax to thicken it up so that it doesn't just melt all over your body. And beeswax will also add another like 4 SPF to it. So.
How long does it like keep for? Do you?
I keep mine in my fridge.
Okay.
Because I'm that person. And then the cool
you
part
take
is
the time to make it.
Yes.
It's like, let me get every bit out of this.
But I think just like regular lotion, they'll tell you last 6 months or a year, and then you should throw it away. Now, despite that, I made my sunscreen not this summer, last summer, and I used it all this summer. Why was I at Kings Dominion? And the whole time I was at Kings Dominion, I was using year-old SPF, year-old sunscreen.
But it blocked it.
And blocked it, didn't it?
Yes.
Very, very well.
Yes. Yeah, it really is actually pretty awesome. And it smells good.
It smells good, yeah. And if it gets in your mouth, it doesn't taste bad either. And it does make you very white. So if you don't want to be so white, you can add a little cocoa powder to it. And then it's like a little browning, and that way it doesn't, leave white streaks all over your body.
Huh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. I used to do that, then I stopped, and I was like, I am white. Let's just face it.
Yeah, who cares? I'm having fun. This is
we're very ghostly when we're walking around Kings Dominion.
But yeah, just add cocoa butter. I mean, cocoa, like
powder,
cocoa powder to it, and it'll brown it up a little bit, and then you just look like, a normal person.
Okay.
Damn, that's crazy.
Kind of like a makeup.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you added a little bit of cannabis in it, now think about that. You'd be putting on your sunscreen constantly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are back with Coughy Talk. We are here with MadMan Plants, and you mentioned you were on tour this year, but you're going on tour again for 2025.
Yes.
So what are your plans? Where are you headed? Where can we find you?
Okay, so we'll be trailing around some of the NECAN shows again this year. NECAN was really good to us, and they're a great venue. So we'll be at the Boston show. We're going to be down in Miami. Obviously, they have the Baltimore show, so that's a jump across the bridge. We're also going to be at American Auto Flower Cup in California in April. We're doing an Arizona tour in February. And then we'll obviously be at MJ BizCon, the Cowboy Cup. That was supposed to be speaking there this year, but unfortunately I wound up buying a house instead of, going there, and I could only do one or the other. So unfortunately I had to miss out this year, but
Buying a house is a good thing.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, it's the same house I've been renting for 7 years, and my landlord was in some need of getting rid of some of her properties, so I was like, I'll buy it. And I got a really good deal on it, way under value from the appraisal. So I got some instant equity, and
Nice.
don't have to move. That's
Nice.
nice. But now it's kind of like, I keep thinking like, oh man. I was thinking about just like joking and calling my landlord and be like, hey, just want to let you know that the plumbing's still not working. Like, oh yeah, you're not my landlord anymore. Damn. All right, who do I call?
Yeah, do you have an emergency list of people that I can connect with? So when you go on your tours, how long do you typically stay in each place?
Usually it depends on the show. So mostly I'm going to convention centers and like areas. So like NECAN is usually a 3-day event.
Okay.
So
do you plan sort of a vacation around it, or is it just strictly business?
Oh yeah, I mean if sponsorship wants to include vacation money into it, I would love that. Right now they're really signing up for their deliverables and that, because even though we have some pretty steep packages, you think it's a lot of money until you get on the road. And I will tell you that I've spent more money on Uber than anything else this year.
Oh,
More
wow.
than food, more than anything. Because sometimes you'll be at the convention, like when we go, I don't travel on show days, so I always fly in the day before. So but Vegas. Last year we stayed there for 9 days, which is a long time. So the event was only 3 days. The other 6 days we were just there hanging out.
Well, you're already there, so you're paying for the flight, and
But that's the only time we've ever really vacationed. Most times we're going to the show, attending the show, and either driving or flying back.
Okay.
So unfortunately, it's not where it's like, hey, let's set you up with this water park while you're here, and we'll do this. It's like, no, go do your job.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess though, when you're going to these conventions and stuff, that people have weed and stuff like that you can get when you're there versus because you can't travel with it. So
I don't do that. I got spooked one time with TSA and I've never done that again.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly just because I don't want to lose the ability to fly, and then I have to drive everywhere, and I'll have to be in Vegas. That's going to be a long drive. I've done that once on my motorcycle from here to California, and I don't want to do that again. I will fly a plane. But most times you're going to legal states or people, people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had people literally show up to shows and be like, hey, listen, I have an ounce for you. And I'm like, that's great. I don't think I'm going to be able to smoke it all in a day, so maybe I'll just take a portion of it. You know what I mean? But I had one guy that's like, hey, if you come to this state, I'll personally grow a plant for you and have it ready and harvested when you get there, and you can have it all and stuff. So it's not really that hard.
Well, that's maybe more worth the drive at that point, if you're...
I guess it depends, we said you're in Maryland? Okay, I can make that.
Too funny. Yeah, I think Vegas has a lot of conventions in our industry, and it's interesting because, it's legal, but it's not legal to smoke in public places, and in most of the hotels you can't smoke. So it becomes a very, very awkward situation because you're like, okay, so it's legal for me to smoke, but only in the privacy of a home, and we're renting hotels, and hotels don't allow smoking, and you can't go outside and smoke on the sidewalk. So where do you smoke?
Well, that's why when I travel, I mostly go to dispensaries, and I get concentrates. Because with my Puffco, I smoke all the time in my hotel room, and there's no odor.
Right.
And if it is, it's very, very mild. It's not going to set the detectors. And right now I have a serious condition that they're monitoring, so my ability to smoke may be changed to just concentrates only because of everything that's going on. So with that, I actually prefer the concentrates because there, like, you get like a couple grams that'll last you the whole time you're there, and then you're not spending hundreds of dollars. Because I've gone in the very beginning last year before I was on tour, when I was going to Cantrell, and you'd spend $300 in a dispensary, and then you have all this weed, and you're about to leave, and now you have to give it to somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I can't take all this with me. Like, fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like rationing, and that's why if you stay at hotels, like when I stayed at Circus this year, the dispensary is behind the hotel. So all I had to do is just leave the parking lot, go across the street. It's 24 hours, and I got everything I need, and I just buy a little at a time because, you know, it's just, like at my house where I grow, you know, I have more than enough to just be like, pull, load joints, but I'm at home. I'm not going to be traveling like all that with me. You know what I mean? So it's like, one, it just smells, and two, it's just like, I only smoke like the most, maybe an ounce a day, you know, and I'm usually by myself smoking, you know, because I'm just running around working, doing whatever, so.
Right. So how did, with all your touring, did it affect your grows?
Well, that's where Autopots comes in. And I love Autopots. And it's a gravity-fed system, so no pumps, no electronics, and with a beautiful wife. But I also have friends. One of my good friends, Paul, he comes over. He does all the watering for me and takes care of my plants and makes sure everything goes good. But when I was in Vegas, Lacey was taking care of the reservoir. And, you know, the plants are getting what they want when they want because they have access to the water 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's not affected, and that's why I teach home growers and bring companies on that are like that add value. Hey, not everybody has a setup where they can technically learn how to run all these pumps and systems. But with a gravity-fed system and you're only responsible for a reservoir, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And once you get down the nutrients, you just know that's 100 milliliters, that's 100 milliliters, that one's 90, that one's 30, this one's 10. And you have it down to a science, and you know, and as long as you're with the range of pH and EC, plants don't give a shit if it's a little bit more, a little bit less. That's my personal opinion. Other people will be like, no, you need to be exactly every single time if you want to hit certain marks. And I'm like, I break rules.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes some of these, especially the nutrient companies, want to make it a little more difficult than it needs to be. And, you know, you go to some of these grow shops and they're like, no, you have to have, you know, part A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and on the third Tuesday of every month, you have to actually add, you know, this little tiny bottle of something that's going to cost you a fortune. You're like, yeah, you know, the plant might love all that, but the plant's going to like a lot of it. You don't have to be 100% dialed in. I mean, it's a weed.
Oh, I argue that. I said those exact words on the podcast last night. It is 100% true. This plant has survived millions of years without you. Your ability to do something magical. I honestly think people overdo it, and that's why they kill plants. Not because their plants, you know, have diseases or, you know, aren't good genetics.
Right. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's one of the things we taught a bunch of grow classes. We had a free monthly grow class in our shop for, I guess, since legalization hit, and one of the things I find the hardest to get people to understand is stop touching it. Like, leave her alone.
I can't say anything. I go in there and I'm like, oh yeah.
Stop touching her. Leave her alone. You know, think of her as your female child. She doesn't want to be touched all the time.
That's actually kind of funny.
But it's amazing how many people will just touch and touch and touch, and they're like, oh, I watered it 2 days ago. I figured it wanted more. And I'm like, no. It's not about what you figured. Take a look at the water, I mean, the dirt, and see how sticky it is, and you'll realize that it probably didn't need water yet. And there's a point at which you're just saturating the soil, and you're going to harm its roots, you harm the roots, and you're going to harm the whole plant.
I have this hilarious comment from somebody about me touching the plant. Give me one second, let me see if I can find it real quick. It was, me and Lacey were laughing so hard last night about it. He said, well, the way you were ripping them panties off that tent, I felt a little tingle between my thighs, and I'm a dude.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I think with everybody with legalization here in Virginia or partial legalization, everyone is growing, and it is amazing how many people have taken it to, really being, it's crazy. Like, they wouldn't spend this much effort on a house plant or any other plant, and I'm like, this is wild. Even an aloe plant, I'm like, aloe plants are straight medicine, and we all know this, and yet I have never watched anyone put as much effort into an aloe plant as they will into a cannabis plant. And it will make you have some nice ass skin. So I don't know, man. Maybe you should. I mean, you wouldn't have all these wrinkles if you used more aloe.
Well, and that's why I think that's the value of it, is you have people that care tremendously about this plant in other ways that they don't, and that's why it makes it a $56.8 billion industry per year.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where I believe that cannabis is the future of sustainability, resource, and a lot of different things. And I think the biggest thing is, well, how does people control that? And then, because you can only cut certain amount of trees down a year. You can only do X, Y, Z. You have to have money to do this. But with cannabis, you have to have a seed, and you could make a whole garden. You could do so much with just one little seed. And I think some people call me ignorant for this thought, but I tie it down to money. Whenever whoever has to get paid up there figures out how they're going to always get paid, just like with iTunes and all these music licensing, like Spotify is free, you pay a monthly, you can listen to all these songs. But there's a way that they make money, or a platform like that would lose money. Like, how would they be able to pay the artists? How would they be able to do all these different things, right? And I look at it as cannabis is, if you just follow trending markets like the ABC, that's a great example. How much alcohol causes problems? But guess what? We got a regulation, we got a place to buy it, we got places for you to indulge, we got all these things. And my biggest argument is, in New Year's, we don't limit the amount of consumption for people and say, well, you're not a medical patient, so you can't do 10 shots like that guy can do 10 shots of whiskey. You have to do 3 shots. Like when you go to the dispensary and they're like, oh, well, you can't have the higher end shit. That's for medical only. As a recreational user, you have to have this. Right. And I think if we treated it like the alcohol industry and made it its own, it would function and act just like it. You have people that craft brew at home. You have people that grow at home. You have people that would never want to waste the time in growing, so they go to the dispensary. You have people that don't want to make their own beer, so they go to the bar. You know what I mean? It's monkey see, monkey do when we talk about it, And I think until there's full transparency, and that's why I want to be on the front lines. I want to help argue this case, because I think it's messed up that we support so many narratives. Like, my biggest one is, I'm all for addiction and understanding it. Do I think that everybody's a victim in addiction? No. Do I think that some people deserve to be where they are? Absolutely. I mean, it's part of life. But what the realization is, it's amazing how much we will do for people to deal with their addiction disease, because it is the disease. But when it comes to a true disease like cancer, we can't help you. Right. There's nothing that we can do. Oh, you're an addict? I saw this firsthand when I was in Boston earlier this year. I left the hotel and I was like, damn, this hotel is really cheap. Found out I was on Meth Row. And Meth Row is an area in Boston where the governor or the mayor has set aside an area where police will not intervene. They can do drugs openly. They can sell openly. They can do whatever they want. As long as somebody is dying or being attacked, the police are not to involve themselves. They just drive around the area. And I left the hotel room, and I'm walking a couple steps, and there's a lady on the ground with a bunch of pills, and then there's a guy standing above her with cash. Walk a little bit further, there's a guy in a wheelchair tying off his arm, holding the needle in his mouth. And then I look up at the this little big giant staircase, and there's 2 police officers at the top of the stairs, and it says methadone clinic. So they're giving out free methadone, which I get it. If that's how you're going to deal with your withdrawal, do what you got to do. I'm not here to cast shadow on that. I've never been an addict, so I can't speak about that. But what I can speak about is the fact that they don't have free cancer clinics. Right. That costs money. You know,
Right,
anything that's designed that they can't, a system that can't keep you, like if they heal you, you're no longer in the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just see a straight contrast between keeping somebody down and isolated versus having somebody flourish, and the cost difference to have somebody go live the healthy, productive life and versus, well, you have 6 months to live. And I'm talking to a person right now who's on the podcast who's stage 4 cancer, and you wouldn't even know it. But he's very optimistic, and he told his doctors, I don't want to know the details. I just want to know if it's getting better or worse. And it's getting better. He started working out. He's doing all these things. And like I said, when you talk to him, you can't. But, you know, he's a thing where he's one of those people that if the insurance didn't help and if he doesn't have these things, it could all go south for him. So, sorry to get on a weird topic, but that's why I want to get in is the future of advocating cannabis. Because maybe not everybody could afford cancer treatments, but they can't afford cannabis. And I've spoke to so many people with cancer who have eaten better, they sleep better, they deal with their pain management better. And you're going to try to restrict this because of a narrative, because of once reefer madness.
Right.
And we have legal states, we have semi-legal states, we have recreation, we have medical only. And it's bullshit when we look at an industry like alcohol. And I love alcohol. I like my red wine at night. You know, I was drinking a glass of red wine last night. I think it's good for your heart. I have nothing against the alcohol industry. What I have about it is we're grown adults and we're still acting like children when it comes to a plant.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Oh no, I agree with you. I think you know, and I guess I am a conspiracy theorist. I think when you look at, you know, the hemp industry and the fact that when you look at nearly 100 years ago when it all started becoming illegal, you can see, you know, like you said, follow the dollar sign essentially, and you'll see that legalization of hemp has the potential to hurt a lot of industries, and until those industries figure out and the, you know, how to make the money off of it, and you know, how the puppets at the top figure out how to, you know, jerk our strings the right way into their pockets, it's not going to be completely legal. And it's not just cannabis, it is industrial hemp as well, because industrial hemp, I mean, you know, 200 years ago, if you had a farm, you grew hemp. Everybody grew at least a little bit because it was how you made your clothes, it's how you made your rope, it's how you made a whole lot of the, you know, I guess kind of like canvas and stuff that you were going to use on your farm. It was a natural thing.
It was a tax incentive by the government to grow hemp for victory.
Right, absolutely. You know, I mean, it was such an important part of everyone's life, and at some point they, you know, decided, you know, hey, this is not working. I mean, even hemp plastic is so much better for the environment than petroleum-based plastics, but petroleum-based plastics were, you know, a way for the petroleum companies to get rid of a nasty byproduct they would have had to pay to get rid of. And, you know, all of a sudden you make hemp illegal and your plastics are worth more. You make hemp illegal and trees are worth more. You make hemp illegal and your cotton is worth more. And these are all things the big industry has controlled. You make hemp illegal and suddenly pharmaceutical companies thrive, because that's the other thing. You take a look, and cannabis was a huge part of what people were using to heal themselves, and not just cannabis, all these other herbs as well. If you go to there's a Civil War museum in Gordonsville, and there is an old doctor's box there, like his pharmaceuticals, and you take a look at it, and almost everything there is a plant. When the North cut off the South from its ability to get supplies from foreign nations, they had to turn to a way to heal. And they were not allowed to get anything. They couldn't get anything from Europe. They couldn't get anything in from other countries, but yet they still had, you know, and the South needed to still be able to provide for its citizens. And one of the things they did was look into plant medicine. They got in touch with Native Americans in the Virginia area, and the Native Americans actually assisted the Surgeon General of the South to create a handbook of all the medicines that actually grew naturally in Virginia and North Carolina. This book still exists. It came out in the 1860s. It's worth a small fortune if you can get your hands on it. Even updated copies of it are hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
But this book is amazing, and it basically has something to cure damn near everything that grows right here in Virginia and North Carolina area.
Wow.
We were able to do all kinds of things that we weren't able to, you know, we weren't able to get any of these even then pharmaceuticals. But if this was allowed to continue to flourish, the big pharmaceutical companies wouldn't exist like they do. But they need to control our medicine or they can't make money off of us. If we were to make our own medicine, we couldn't be charged $100, $1,000 for a prescription. You would just go to, the lady down the street, someone, who is a little witchy to make these things,
They did in the medieval days. You had
Absolutely.
Somebody that would make, herbs and spices for whatever somebody needed, like those doctors with the whole little cones that they put incense in. So when they dealt with infections, they didn't have to smell the rotting flesh.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I mean, if you take a look and you see the rise of our nation and capitalism in the last, particularly 150 years, you realize that, all these industries were allowed to flourish by breaking the everyday man. I mean, women used to have gardens of all kinds of herbs and plants that grew in their yard. It wasn't just to eat them. I mean, you use these things. I mean, I believe it's oregano that, we all put in our tomato sauce. Well, oregano helps with gas. Well, isn't that interesting? Because you get bloated when you eat a whole lot of spaghetti. And it could potentially lead to some gas. But add that oregano in there, you add a little basil and suddenly you don't have gas pains. Wow. That is just, it's good cooking, but at the same time, it's also, this is a nice way of healing. But instead, now everyone goes and buys Beano because they're like, oh, I'm bloated, I have gas, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is you could do it yourself just by growing a little, oregano, oregano, whatever you want to call it.
I love oregano.
Right?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite
Right?
seasonings.
It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing what, we aren't doing for ourselves anymore and we're not encouraged to do for ourselves because there's no money in it. I mean, if you grew a spice garden in your yard, a medicine garden in your yard, it's like growing free money. I mean, seriously, suddenly now you don't need to go to the store for your spices. You don't need to go to the store. I mean, hair, shampoo, soap, all these things, almost all of it you can grow in your yard. If you grew it in your yard, you'd be making free money. Where's the taxes coming from? Mm-hmm. I better watch myself. The powers that be might come and get me and shut me down.
Yep.
I mean, God forbid we take their tax dollars away. And taxation was actually a new thing too, right? There was no income tax until about 100 years ago. And initially the income tax in this country was voluntary. And then eventually...
And nobody decided to pay.
Yep. And then they were like, okay, now you have to. But we didn't, this country functioned for 150 years roughly without an income tax. And we still flourished and we still grew. Think about that, but not anymore. Now we need income tax. Now we need to tax the shit out of every single American. It's just pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, if they weren't taxing the shit out of us and making us work more so that they make more, then we would have time to
fight back.
Yeah, well, to grow things and do things and not always be trapped at, trying to give them their money.
The whole concept of a politician when this country was founded was that it was supposed to be older people. I know everyone's like, oh, I'll get the old men out. No. It was actually supposed to be people who were basically retired. You already made your income. So now you had free time to give back to your community, but you also didn't get paid very well, if at all. The whole point is that, you were supposed to do it as someone who wants to give service to your community. So if you're going to be in politics, you should accept a pay cut from whatever it is that you were doing prior to becoming into politics. And that's not the case anymore. No. Now these people are making a fortune. I mean, there was that lady in New York who was bitching because she was a bartender and couldn't pay her student loan debts. Well, we haven't heard about her in 3 years because now she's getting rich. That's a problem. You should not get rich making laws in our country.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Here.
So, we kind of need to wrap up because
because Ashley's that person.
So on tour next year, are you trying to go to similar places that you were?
Some will be repeat stops.
Okay.
Like obviously Vegas, Cowboy Cup, some of the NECAN shows, but we're also looking at like CannaCon and other ones that are more Midwest focused. Last year we did West Coast shows, but we rode a lot on the East Coast, and now kind of want to get center and then more on the West Coast.
Nice. Awesome. And if people were interested in seeing your podcast, where can they find it?
Well, the live show is always on YouTube on Wednesdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. on Sundays and 5 p.m. on Sundays. And as long as you're attached to social media, there's an automatic post that goes out every Sunday to remind you. and 3 hours before the show starts, that goes live. And then if people want to get connected, where the online university will be for our courses that are coming out that people can sign up and take and everything, that's madmanplant.com. And on there you have all the information. If you want to be on the podcast, we have a live calendar and a sign-up form. You just pick your date and time and fill out the form, and we got you locked in. And then a lot of the more exclusive interviews are on there, but we're also putting it on YouTube. We're more focused on working on online curriculums versus like charging people to see the content. For us, the content is going to be part of the marketing effort. The real value is the education and really connecting with people. So those will be done through the educational courses, which will focus on entrepreneurism, mental health, and then ultimately home growing.
Nice. Very nice. And I know you're interested in getting into the politics side of it. So in about a month, it's the middle of January, we have Lobby Day here in Virginia.
Oh, I'll be there again. That'd be awesome.
So we'll be heading to the General Assembly, and you get to meet all the local politicians in Virginia and tell them what you think, and give them a heads up on, this is where the policy is going wrong. This is what we need to see in the cannabis policy, and it's a good opportunity for them to hear our opinions.
Is it open forum, or is it like Q&A as a seminar, or what is it?
You just go to their offices. Like literally it's wide open, and you come in, you go through body scan or whatever it is to make sure you don't have any weapons on you, and then they have a list of where all the politicians are and where their offices are, and you can go and visit the ones that you think are most appropriate to speak to. And of course there's ones like
you have to wait in line, or you just walk up to the back like, hey Jim, how's it going?
Yeah, basically you just walk in. Yeah, sometimes there's a line if they're a particularly popular person, but most of them you just walk in.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely go to that. And then are they allowed media, like if I want to do an interview and talk to them?
That would be dependent on the individual politician.
But are you allowed to bring cameras into the building, or no?
Good question.
I don't want to bring my cameras and mics just in case somebody was like, yeah, I'll talk to you.
I imagine you can.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, we were there last year, and I didn't notice anybody else doing that, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't allowed.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't see why not. I think, if the
Maybe
politician's
I could get
okay with
some
it,
media
then
press credentials or something for it to go. So at least they know I'm coming or something,
Right.
So,
Right.
Wait, because I got bigger cameras I can roll in with.
It's not just your cell phone.
Right. Yeah, but it's a great opportunity. You meet a lot of the politicians, and you can let them know, hey, this is what's wrong with this policy. This is what we'd like to see. And some of them are very helpful. Some of them are not so. But
Well, I think so too. It'd be good to understand from, I think, and what people are missing too is we all have our narratives and thoughts and opinions on what we think should be like just or unjust with the cannabis system. But I think also too is there's a lot of things that we should be asking more questions about that play into policy and why they are that way. And that's one thing that I'm trying to educate myself, is not try to come in here and be like, well, this is how I think and this is the way it should be and I see it like this. Is more trying to come in here and say, okay, well, what's the real problem with the industry from the political side? What are the gaps, and what do the people need to do, and then what do the politicians need to do so we can align, or at least even if we don't agree, kind of see eye to eye. Because I think the real value is education all the way around. We need to educate them, they need to educate us, and then with that, I think we're going to have more of a ground. If we just come in here and say, your policies are fucked up and they're unjust to us and they're not working and screw you, you don't care about us, that's not going to get anything done. And I think that's a lot of times the attitude that some people have. And I think it's more of it is we need to understand that they're in the power of the position of making these changes. We need to appease them in a way that says, hey, this is our point, but this is also something that we need to learn, because if maybe it is like a gap of like intellect, like we're just seeing it from different points of views, like mountaintops and from being from the valley, there could be an easy explanation. And then even if it's not the answers that we want, it's like, okay, what is it here? And then what is the original objection? Okay, for the next year, let's focus on that one objection, and then let's go back. And I think a lot of times too, just in like the 3 cardinal rules of success that I follow, which is 1, only walk into rooms where people value you and light up when they see you. Number 2, Oh man, the fastest way to be where you want to be is slowly. And number 3, the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. So keep climbing.
Nice. Yeah, I absolutely think the lobby day is an amazing opportunity to see what politicians you have potential to work with, and you can also find out which ones of them probably need to go because they're not willing to work towards a more beneficial future for the average person. So I think it's a great opportunity. I can't remember the exact date. Last year, I believe it was the 16th of January, but it's coming soon, and as many people as can go, feel free, go down to the General Assembly and make a day of it. Meet these politicians.
I'll tell you the one thing though is do your homework. Like come in prepared.
Yeah.
Educate yourself about the politicians, about their policies, about the bills that they're putting forward. Their time is valuable, and you don't want to just go in there willy-nilly and go, hey, this is how I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about earlier when we were in those forums at MJ BizCon. It's how do you get taken seriously in this industry? And even some of the top brands have problems with being taken seriously. And you're 100% right. You want to do your homework. You don't want to go in there looking like a fool and misrepresent yourself or worse, the community, or what way. And you need to know how to talk to them, because if you know their policy, you can address, just like you were saying, the actual subject, save them time, get a direct answer, and then be able to provide clarity, versus nobody cares about opinion. And that's one thing that I've learned the hard way. Nobody gives a shit what you think. They give about facts and how it ultimately affects others. And I think that's the biggest thing. So I'm glad that you said that, because that is a key thing. Do your homework on anything that you do, especially when you're talking to people of value or in position. So,
Absolutely. If you would like to continue this conversation, you can always visit MadMan Plants online, or you can visit us at Higher Education VA. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we are at 619 West Main Street in Charlottesville. We're in Zion's Crossroads at 100-503 Notch Road, and we're still in Richmond for the time being at 3424 West Carey Street. Gosh, that one's so hard for me. Why is that one so hard?
It's your stepchild,
And you
apparently.
can always shop online at highereducationsmokeshop.com if you're just looking for some awesome pipes.
And we'll send them right to your house.
That's right.
Mail them right to your door.
All right.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
We'll be back next week.